Hi, this is Mike Smith for Xiaomi Websites. This is a brief tutorial on how to create blog posts and manage blogs for the Bosman Tyres website. So as you can see, the home page is here on the left hand side, and I've got a brief summary of my lesson plan here. And what we are interested in is the blogs, the blog articles. So here are 5 blog articles, and we're going to look at how to edit a blog article and how to create a new blog article. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is log in to the administration dashboard, and I've already got myself logged in this tab here. And while I think of it, let me just create a nice big pointer here so my mouse is easy to see. Okay, so what you need to do is just take out that blog there and type in admin. And if you press enter here and then log in, you should arrive on the dashboard, which looks like this. And so the dashboard here has a menu system across the top, and we're interested in the blog module. Now, without getting into too many details, what you actually want to do is just hover over that blog module menu item and then come down to blogs, and just click on that, and that will bring you to a summary of all the current articles. And as you can see, you've got some controls here: enable, enable, enable. One of these is disabled, and what that means is it simply won't be visible. And there's an edit button on the right hand side here, which we'll look at next. Now I'm going to be flicking backwards and forwards between tabs up here, and that simply allows me to see what's going on the normal website, as well as manage the administration of the website. So that's always a good idea. I mean, if you've got a big enough screen, what you can do, which I sometimes do, is just tick this one over here. So I've got the website over here, and I've got the the administration panel over here. And that's what I'm going to do just for now, because I want to point out what goes where effectively. Okay, so now we're going to play with this article, off-road tires, which I've created as a demonstration. That wasn't on the website when we started working on this, but it will serve nicely for the purpose of this video. So off-road tires, as you can see, is listed there. And so I go across here and I just click on edit button on the right, and this gives me access to the controls for this article. Okay, so let's just briefly go over what's going on the right hand side here. Now I'll mention this a couple of times during the video, but you may notice across the top here you've got three tabs. You've got your general tab, your images gallery, and your meta SEO tab here. Now the meta SEO we're going to leave for another video, so I'll just show you what it looks like, but we're not going to mess with that today. And the images gallery, as you can see, this image corresponds to what is viewed in the archive page, this page that has a summary of all the blog articles on it. So, and it is a little clipped, as you can see, but that's the image that's used. Okay, and that's important to understand. If you want to have an image, and you definitely do, you want to have an image there. So so that's controlled from the images tab here. So I'll go to that in a moment. And then most of the settings are actually in the general tab, which is the leftmost tab that comes up automatically. Okay, now we're going to click onto this article in a moment, but let's just stay on this archive page for the moment, because it's important for me to point out what this description actually is. But let's start from the top. So we've got category here. At the moment there's only one category of blog articles, but as you write more articles you may want to use topics or subjects to group them into different categories, and that will become important as we write more and more articles. The status here is the enabled, so there's only a yes or no there. You may remember there was one that was disabled. Basically that means that you can work on a blog article here and then disable it while you're working on it, and then and then enable it when you're happy with it. So for example, if I change that to status to no, save this over here, and then refresh the page over here, that article disappeared. Okay, great. So I shall go back to it. Where is it? Off-road tires. Edit. Change the status to yes. Save it again, and then refresh over here, and you can see it pops back. So that's a good way to manage drafting articles, and also taking old articles off the front page. Okay, so that's great. Okay, now I'm just going to skip down to the SEO keyword here. In fact, I'll come back to this in a moment, the SEO keyword, because it's not very usefully named actually. I'll come back to that in a moment. The title. Down here, that's really important. You've got to have a title, and that corresponds to the title over here on the left-hand side, off-road titles. And you may appreciate that. Okay, so if you can just look closely at my mouse, if you hover over the title, you would expect that to be a link to the actual article, and that's actually correct. So you can see my mouse is changing from a normal mouse to a pointer. I'll just get rid of my green pointer here, so you see how it changes there. It also provides a link over here with the read more, so that's also the link. But what that link actually is, let me just click on that, go to the article. The actual link is, if you can see up here, the link is off-road tires. Okay, and that corresponds to the SEO keyword over here. So this can be a little bit confusing, because if you don't put something in this box, then actually you end up with no link to the article. I'll demonstrate that just briefly next. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is just briefly demonstrate how to break the system, if you like. I'm going to remove this SEO keyword here, so that box is empty. Then save. Okay, and it doesn't give me an error of any kind. Just this box is just empty now. The title is still there. Okay, now I'm on the left-hand side. I'm going to click on blog, bring up my my archive page. So all of these blog articles here, and I can hover over them, and you may be able to see down the bottom left hand corner of my screen as I hover what they all have links, so they all go to their respective articles. I'll just go to this one, yep, and then back to the blog. But now when I go over here, it still looks like it's a link, but it in fact only goes to the home page. It doesn't go to the article, so that can be really confusing. So you need to have something in this SEO keyword box, and that actually should really be titled the link, the URL, or something a little bit more useful than SEO keyword. Okay, so that's thing number one. Thing number two is, when you create this SEO keyword, it's probably best based on the title. Mostly that makes sense, so I can copy that in there, but it's important. Well, it's important to make sure there's no spaces in here, so I'm going to replace the space with a hyphen or a minus sign, and just good practice as well to make it all lowercase. So whatever your title is, copy and paste it up there, take out the spaces, replace them with hyphens, and make it all lowercase. Now if I save this, okay, and I'll have to refresh this page. So I've refreshed the page. Now it'll work again. Good tip. Okay, let's just go back to the blog archive page. As I mentioned before, that's the page that lists all of the blog articles in a summary kind of thing. It's the summary that that I want to have a look at, because as you can see, there's a bit of text here, and there's also limited room. So particularly when it starts going into 3-column mode here, you don't want to have more than a sentence or so in this part of the article. So how do we control that? Okay, so if you compare up here on the left hand side, going off-road, read this. Well, that is controlled by the description box here. description box. And this is a text editor, and as you can see, you've got a lot of controls here. You can in fact embed an image there if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it because there's not a lot of space. You really just want a sentence which acts as a teaser, so that someone is compelled to click on the title or the read more. That's what you want. So that's a teaser there. That's the description box. Okay, now for the actual content, there's another text editor just below the description text editor. So now on the left hand side here, let's just click to the actual article. And you can see what I've done here is it's essential to select the correct tire type for different modes of off-road driving, and that corresponds to the text in the content box. What you will also notice is that there is that the description here, sort of like the summary or the teaser, is also displayed here. So when you're considering the text in the description box and the content box, you want to make sure that there's not inappropriate duplication of information here. Okay, so just summarizing from the top down, in the general tab we want to set a category, but we haven't really got different categories at the moment. Probably while you're building an article, you want to set the status to no, and that means you can save it. And when you're happy with it, set it to yes. It's really important to write a title and then copy that title into the SEO keyword box, and then remove spaces, replacing them with hyphens, and then make it all lowercase. And then what you want to do is enter a short sentence or so into the description box, and not much else, and then your main content in the content box below that. And you go up here and you press save, and then you go to your blog page, and if you've selected enabled, then that should appear in this archive page. Great. Okay, just one final thing that we haven't gone into detail about, although I have mentioned it. The image is uploaded here in the images gallery, which is the second tab over, and I'll show how that works in a moment when we create a new blog post. Okay, so what we're going to do is create a new blog post, and often a new blog article will be based on an image of some kind. Images are a really good idea to capture people's attention. They work really well on social media. You really should start your idea for a blog article with an image, and I've got an example here. Now this particular blog article which I'm going to create for Bosman Tyres can easily be deleted or disabled, but it's just showing the process of how it works, and I recommend you start with an image because you will need it for your social media anyway. Getting images off the web, I use a website called unsplash.com. As you can see up there, because these images have a copyright permission to be used on any website without payment. All you need to do is just acknowledge it. Okay, so that's great. So I've downloaded this image, and I've got it open in my image editor here, and let's just run through the process of how to prepare an image briefly for upload to your website. Now, if you look carefully at the top here, you've got your image dimensions 4942 by 3294. This image is far bigger than is necessary for a web page, and also, for the purposes of this article, I actually want to focus on this part here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just trim it. Let's say around about here, I would say. Okay, so I'm just going to trim my image to something that makes sense for what I want to do there, and your image editing program of course may work differently, but this is what you want to do. Trim first, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so I'm just going to trim my canvas to this selection. As you can see, my image is a bit smaller now. It's still a little too wide, but that's okay. We're going to Now we're going to downsample it. So the next thing we're going to do is scale that image down to, now I want the width to be about 1024. I know that sounds a bit weird, but 1024 is actually a reasonably common dimension for images, and that brings, if I keep the aspect ratio, that brings the height down to 452. So I'm going to scale that down there. Great, and bring that back up to 1:1. So that's the size of my new image, and that looks about right. In fact, looking at this image, it may cause problems if I use it as the featured image of the blog post, but that's okay. This is a trial and error process. As you become more familiar with the images that may work as featured images, you'll get better at trimming and resizing your image. But the important thing is that the image itself is a reasonable size. So I'm just going to export this image to, so we'll call it winter driving, and I'm just saving it to my computer here. Okay, so that's done. Now what I'm going to do, let's go back to my blog management page here. We're going to create a new blog article. Okay, so I've got my blog archive page over here on the left hand side, and my dashboard. I'm in the blog module. I'm going to add a blog. I could do that here off the menu or off the top menu within that dashboard. Add a blog. This page, so this control page here is now familiar to you. And this is what I normally do. The first thing I do is think of a title. Winter driving. And then I'm just going to copy that text, copy, then paste it in here, because this is easy to forget. To forget this step here. What I want to do is have a URL that actually works, as I explained before. So I just, for now, I copied the title into the SEO keyword box, removed all the spaces, replaced them with hyphens, and made it all lowercase. So I don't have to worry about that. That's done. Next, the description, which is going to be what appears on the archive page. And I'll just call that tips for driving in snowy areas. Now we're in Australia, we don't have much snow, but actually in winter a lot of people drive from places like Canberra and Melbourne and Sydney down to the snowy areas south of Canberra, and often people are not at all familiar with driving in snowy conditions. So it makes sense to have an article like this. Okay, so I've got my description there. I'll just pop down to the content. And now I'm just going to prepare some text here. I'm not going to worry about writing the whole article right now, but just so that there's something there. Here are some important aspects of driving on snowy and icy roads. Okay. Alright, now I can always edit this later, but that'll do for now. So I've got content text, I've got description text. Important that I've got a title, and also important that I've got SEO keyword. Okay, and at this point I could just save that. Now I haven't uploaded an image, so let's just see what happens if you don't have an image. So there you've got the article there with no image. Of course we want to add an image to that. Okay, so winter driving, back here again, edit, second tab over, images gallery, which I mentioned before. We're going to click on the browser icon here, and that's going to bring up a pop-up. You may notice underneath you can also post the embed code of a video from YouTube or Vimeo code, so that's cool too. You can have video running over here. We're just going to upload an image. So the upload is this control here, upload. However, you can also select an existing image. So within your image gallery. Okay, but I'm going to upload an image. So going back to my crazy computer, back to where I've saved the winter driving image that I've edited. Okay, uploaded, so it's there now. Hopefully, where is it? Here it is. Okay. And of course, if you've properly edited your image, it will take not very long to upload, and that's really useful to know. Okay, so I'm going to double click on that. That comes there, and I suspect this is going to cause a problem. I may need to redo this, but that's okay. This is just a demonstration. So I'm going to save this now, and then refresh my blog archive page over here. Oh, that seemed to work okay. That's good. And now I'll click through to the article, and there it is, and that works beautifully. Okay, so that image did seem to work okay. Now, the reason I was suspecting that it wouldn't work okay is that as you add more articles, this image is going to end up being in the 3-column layout, but maybe it will work okay. And that's part of the trial and error of working with images. Okay, so that is the process of creating a new blog article. And of course, what I'm going to do now, just to keep the site nice and tidy, I'm going to disable these 2 articles which I've created recently for the purpose of demonstration. So I'll show you how that works. Okay, now if I'm doing one blog article at a time and I want to disable that, I can do it from the edit screen here, and I can select status no. That works, but there's also a way to manage multiple articles at once. So what I want to do is disable both of these at the same time. So I can just select, both of these, and then click unpublish, and they are now both disabled. So if I click on the blog over here, they're removed. So that's handy to know as well. Okay, so there's a bunch of things that we haven't covered, but that's the basics from beginning to end of creating a new blog article. And also earlier in this tutorial, we worked through all the things that you need to consider. As well as that, we also worked through the process of preparing an image to make it suitable for a web page or a blog article. So thanks very much for listening.